Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bay Bolts channel for another edition of Quick Strikes. The Lightning win their fifth consecutive game by a score of 4-1, this time over the Nashville Predators. My name is Michael Wax, joined with my co-host, as always, Jake Ricker. Jake, a pretty good game for the Lightning. I'm ready to talk about this game with you. How are you doing today?
Michael, play all night. I'm doing well. Another Bolts win that makes me happy once again. But you're right, a pretty well played game from the Bolts, and we'll get into this a little bit later. But McElhinney looked absolutely fantastic in this game after not having played for so long. So a big shout out to him. But yeah, Bolts played really well, and they're keeping this train rolling right now.
Both played extremely well. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe. We're saying this early in the video because we have a lot to get to. Comment down below as well what you thought of the game, your positives, your negatives, what you thought your overall direction was from this game. We will respond to any and all comments. And one other thing we want to say before we really get started, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning in Super Bowl 55 against the Kansas City Chiefs last night, bringing another title to Champa Bay, as a lot of people are calling it right now, with the Lightning and the Buccaneers winning their respective titles, and the Rowdies and the Rays making the conference or the championship games.
Absolutely. Shout out to them. Title Town, baby. We're taking over. I told people for a long time this city's going to be up and coming and we're going to be one of the best cities around. And sure enough, everything is turning up Tampa Bay right now. So you absolutely love to see it. And hopefully we can see some continued success for these Tampa teams.
Absolutely. So getting this game started off, Jake, I thought the Lightning did a really solid job in the defensive zone, really making McElhinney comfortable in his first game in 11 months. You know, he hasn't played since I believe the stat was March 8th of last year, which was a 5-4 shootout loss against the Red Wings. The Predators have some talent. You know, they are struggling as of late, but they do have some offensive talent. I thought the Lightning did a really good job structuring their defensive game to limit the shots around McElhinney in those first couple of periods.
They absolutely did. They looked really good. They did not give Nashville many quality chances, which is something they had a lot of in the first two times these two teams met. So it's definitely an improvement. I think the shots towards the end of that first period about like 16-5. So they did a very good job of limiting the Predators in that sense. And anytime you can limit shots on a guy who hasn't played in a long time for your goaltender, that's going to help out a lot. Obviously you're able to stop a lot more shots when there's just not many of them, and it also helps McElhinney get into his groove. They talk about all the time when Vassie's playing. Sometimes it hurts you if you haven't had a lot of action going on in your own zone. But I think it's different here for McElhinney, who has, as we mentioned, hasn't played in so long, and he was able to kind of get back into the game flow and get ready to go. But the Bolts defense looked very good today.
They did look great indeed, especially in those first two periods. As you mentioned, first period shots on goal were 17 for the Lightning and 6 for the Predators. The Predators had just 12 shots on net uh, throughout the first two periods. A fantastic defensive game. And on the other side of things, the Lightning generated a lot of chances. I thought Pecorine had a pretty good game. One person that seemed to have his number was Anthony Cirelli, and it wasn't off of spectacular plays. It wasn't off of really good feeds from his line mates. It wasn't off deflections. It was off of these weird carom shots off the boards or off the posts. You know, credit Anthony Cirelli for taking advantage, but if you're Pecorine, you know, that is tough that you're just allowing those type of goals.
Right. Well, and as the saying goes, Michael, you got to put the puck on net and good things will happen. And that's exactly what the Lightning did. You don't always have to take a quality shot that may have a 100% success rate of going in. Sometimes just putting the puck on the net, you get the right bounce and it ends up in the back of the net. And that's what Sorelli did. And shout out to Sorelli, who had a fantastic game. Michael, I don't know if you guys remember in the last game recap, we called out Sorelli and said he needs to be a little bit better. And then sure enough, he continues to, he has one of his best games of the night in this one. So I guess we need to continue to do that because it seems like anytime we do that, the player has a good game in the next couple of games. So we'll have to maybe make that into a little segment. But Sorelli did look very good today. Defensive game kept up. Sorelli almost could have had 3 goals there as well. He had that 2-on-1 play with Johnson, but all these guys are not selfish whatsoever. So they're always looking for that extra pass. and it probably ended up costing him a potential hat trick. But nonetheless, he still played a great game all around. Did have a penalty towards the end of the game, which wasn't ideal, which I'll get into a little bit. I think the Lightning are taking way too many penalties, but uh, overall, can't complain from Anthony Cirelli. He looked great tonight.
He looked really, really solid. As you mentioned, we've been calling out a lot of people, and as soon as we call them out, they seem to respond. So even in our private conversation, I called out Steven Stamkos as a joke, and he ended up scoring later in the game on an empty net. So, I guess we're gonna call somebody out later in this game too. But we'll get right into that. You mentioning we take too many penalties, 100%. I think it really helped the Lightning get their feet underneath them. That the fact that Nashville took the first real penalty of the game, fight notwithstanding, that helped get the power play going. That helped the team overall really get their feet going and ended up. Uh, didn't end up capitalizing, but it helped wear down Nashville's penalty killers a little bit more. And then the Lightning ended up taking three penalties in the second period, one of which, or two of which, were actual penalties. One of which was a coincidental minor, and then they took two penalties in the third period. They It seems like it's a problem. There were a couple of them where you could say, that makes sense as a ticky tack play. Like sometimes those things happen, but like Alex Killorn's slashing penalty, where he takes his stick and Yossi's already got the puck and he just bashes him on the hand with the stick. You can't do that. Those are the type of plays that are going to bite you in the end. Like you mentioned, Anthony Cirelli took a penalty and it ended up costing the Lightning because they scored on that power play. The Predators did, but uh, it's really tough when you've got people that take unnecessary penalties, which I think the Lightning are doing far too much this season.
And let's say this too. I think a lot of the penalties that have been called this year are very iffy a lot of the times. But you've got to understand that's the way they're calling things this year, and they have been for a little while now. So you've got to be aware of that, and you've got to try to make sure you're doing anything you can to be not even put in that situation in the first place. Because when you take 3, 4 penalties in a game, sometimes the Bolts have been doing that in a period sometimes. Teams are going to eventually capitalize if you constantly give them an opportunity to, and it's luckily hasn't killed them quite yet, in the sense that they've had such good leads that even when teams do get on the power play like tonight, they're still able to hold on to that lead and win the game. But that's something they really need to crack down on, is making sure they're not taking bad penalties, which they have been for a couple of games now. I think that's something they need to work on their discipline, because if it comes down where there's a close game or maybe a 0-0 game like they had against Carolina, those power plays can ultimately kill them and make them lose a game. So that's something I'd like to see them work on. But again, that's one negative out of many, many positives. So still a very good game from the Bolts.
Yeah, I think the Lightning are a little bit lucky when it comes to the fact that they have, even though they've surrendered their fair share of power play goals, they've been up against power play units like Detroit, like Chicago, like Nashville, who has struggled this year on the power play mightily. Give them credit where you can. They have shut down Carolina. Hopefully, they can shut down Florida later this week. But with the games that they've played, the majority of them have been against teams that have a subpar power play. So the penalty kill is able to do its job. Nashville scored today. I thought it was a brilliant screen in front by Victor Arvidsson on, I believe it was Dante Fabbro's shot. Fellow Boston University boy, got to give him a little bit of credit right there. But, that was Curtis McElhinney's only blemish. We got to talk about Curtis McElhinney. His first game since March of last year, as I mentioned earlier, and he comes into the game. He doesn't face a ton of shots, only 24, but he makes 23 saves, and that ending save was the most important save he made in the entire game. Jake, what did you think of McElhinney? Well, I know what you thought of McElhinney, but you know, this is the type of guy I think that the Lightning are counting on to be their full-fledged backup. What a game from him!
He was fantastic tonight. There's no other way to describe it, I think. I mean, my jaw dropped when he made that save at the end of the game there where he was, on his stomach facing in the wrong direction and was still able to somehow get a blocker on that puck that was going into the net and swipe it away. It was absolutely fantastic. It's hard enough to be a backup goalie and not play for so many games, only getting, most backup goalies play about what 20 games in a full season. It depending on how the team is set up with their. But when you're playing, with Vasi, who's the number one guy, you're not going to get that many opportunities. So it's hard enough just from there. But then to not played for so long and come in and look very sharp is a testament to how good and dedicated he is to this team. He was also on the COVID list for 14 days, so he wasn't even he was isolated and not practicing or anything like that as well. So that makes this performance even better. It's a nice morale boost to the team when they know they got a guy in the net that they can count on. And usually teams will play even harder for those kinds of goalies as well. So McElhaney was absolutely fantastic. Hopefully, we continue to see that, and I think that's good for John Cooper to know that he can rely on him if he needs him in these back-to-back situations, or if as he starts getting tired and needs a rest.
Yeah, well, you've heard Vasilevsky in the past. He says, I want to play in every single game. I think that's a goalie's mentality every time. Most goalies, I think McElhaney understands his role. He's not going to play in a normal season 40 or 50 games anymore. He's not that type of guy, even though it seems like he's getting better every year. Like, I don't know how he does it. He seems to defy age at this point. But I think McElhaney understands his role, which is exactly the type of guy that you need for the backup. If he needs to, he'll challenge Vasilevsky. He'll make Vasilevsky even better. But right now, he knows that, I'm sort of in this number two role and I'm going to be good at it. And we should probably mention, we forgot to mention this earlier, Andre Vasilevsky didn't even dress in this game. Chris Gibson was the backup, giving Andre Vasilevsky all the rest he needs, not even putting him in pads in case Curtis McElhaney got shelled. If he gets shelled, Chris Gibson comes into the game and not Vasi, and then Vasi would start the next day. So a really smart decision by Coach Cooper, really putting faith and a little bit of pressure on McElhaney to be better in his first game back. But an unbelievable game by McElhaney, I thought, especially for his return.
No question about it. And you're right, that was a smart move by John Cooper to not even have Vasi dress, really giving him that full day's rest, as you mentioned, because these back to backs are tough. So it'll give Vasi a full chance to recover and be ready to go for the next game against Nashville. Michael, I think we should also mention too the power play in this one. We talked about how the power play has struggled for the Bolts for a majority of the start of this season, and it wasn't perfect tonight. Far from it, but I thought they looked a lot better tonight on that power play. They did have a power play goal tonight, which was good to see. And even on the ones where they didn't have a goal, they still had a lot of better chances. So it's good to see that this power play is improving and, slowly getting better. And hopefully we continue to see that. And maybe we start to see a new type of power play. But whatever they're doing in practice right now, it seems like it worked tonight against Nashville.
Yeah, absolutely. The numbers are deceiving. 1 for 3. I thought the power play generated a lot of chances. At times, though, that power play looked dismal. And I'm talking mostly about the first unit. They need to get their stuff together. They were trying something new. Plot and Point were rotating throughout their spots, and it worked sometimes. Plot had a really good opportunity. Point had a couple of really good opportunities. Uh, they need to be better. The second unit though was fantastic for the 1 minute they had of ice time. They got the power play goal. They were generating chances. Mikhail Sergachev is finally using that slap shot from the point, which is what we've been screaming about for years. His wrist shot is good. His slap shot is lethal. So that's what we want as Lightning fans. And just you're right. Like the power play looked good, and it got chances, and that is what we can ask for. It's just that when you have so much talent on that first power play, I think a lot of Lightning fans are expecting more chances, which lead to goals.
Right, but again, it's an improvement though, which is good to see. After having struggled, that's what you want to see is improvement. And you mentioned they tried some new things tonight, which is good to see. You want to see the Lightning knowing that there is some issues on the power play, and they're trying to find ways to fix it. And they know these things just don't get fixed overnight or in one game. So the fact that we did see some improvement is a good sign. And you mentioned Sergachev finally shooting that shot. He said I believe it was the second period interview on Fox Sports that he knows he needs to be shooting more, and that's what he's doing. He's worked that into his game. So great job by him continuing to find success and find ways to improve for himself. So yeah, power play is getting better. I like what I see. Hopefully that can continue and we can get back to where we'd ultimately like to be, where we were when Kucherov was on the team.
Absolutely. A really, really solid game all around. Jake, do you have any other ups or downs from this game?
No, I think that about wraps it up. Listen, the Bolts got another tough game tomorrow because they're going to be playing on a back to back. These are one of the hardest games to win, especially when you're playing the same team back to back. So they're going to have to work, cut them out for them. Then they're going to be taking on the Florida Panthers soon. So, they're on a 5 game win streak right now, but they got to keep it up, keep their foot on the gas, and keep going. This is going to be a tight race all the way down to the end of the season. So, but Michael, let me ask you this: so we've been calling out players and they've been succeeding. So, who are you calling out today?
I told you this before we started shooting. Alexander Volkov, I'm calling you out tonight. Tomorrow, I expect you to score your first NHL goal. I thought he had some really, really nice chances. It's not anything against Volkov in particular, but man, he really needs to get on the score sheet. Like we've been wanting him to get on that for a long, long time. I know he's only played what is it, a dozen games at the NHL level, but it seems like he's sort of getting better and better every single time. And as Carter Verhaeghe and Mitchell Stevens and uh, you know even going back so far as to Braden Point a couple of years ago, once you get that first goal, the chances start coming, the goals start coming. So he needs to get that first one in order to open the floodgates.
Well, hopefully our little curse can, well, not curse, but hopefully our him calling us can help him out because it seems like it's worked so far. But it's good to see too. I don't know if people caught this on the broadcast, but we saw Volkov talking to one of the assistant coaches for the Lightning, and so he's learning and he is getting some advice and knowing what he's doing wrong and what he needs to improve on. So I think he'll get there soon. He has looked pretty good, so hopefully it could be sooner rather than later though.
Absolutely, guys. We will see you tomorrow, actually, for or what is today's game of Nashville versus Tampa, Vasilevsky versus UC Saros, and that should be a great second half of a back-to-back. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell for notifications. Comment down below what you thought about this game. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Bay_Bolt. For Jake Ricker, my name is Michael Wax. Guys, thank you so much once again, and we will see you tomorrow for the Lightning and Predators. And don't forget, the 2020 Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning are on a roll.
Go Bolts.